Entry 7. Photograph. Rainie lied again. Just thought you'd like to know. As soon as Cassie, or whatever the hell she really was, revealed herself, I started running. I didn't know where to run, but I just did. I just ran. Didn't know what else to do. I ran through the dusty old department store trying to escape Cassie White. "Don't be silly, Rainie. You can't hide from me," her voice boomed, echoing all over the shop. Suddenly, I found myself transported back at the place I was before, facing the mysterious Cassie White. Why?" I yelled. "Why?" "That is not your concern, dear Rainie," Cassie growled. I realized then she was holding a book in one of her hands, an ancient one by the looks of it. It had strange symbols all over it and was also covered in moss? I couldn't tell at that time. "Anyways, I require a sacrifice," she tapped the book. "And that's you." I threw a chair at her, hoping it would distract her. The chair flew across the air, finally crashing into Cassie, whose eyes were wide and confused. She did not expect that. The chair and Cassie tumbled across the aisle of the store, and I noticed that she dropped the strange moss-covered book. At that moment, the store seemed to fade, and I could somehow see through back at the police station. Then I heard 3 gunshots ring out, and I saw that it was the detective Stephanie Rengage. 3 bullet holes appeared as a very confused Cassie went from picking herself up to back on the floor. "What the hell is going on here?" she snapped. "I'm not sure, but we have to run." She mumbled something I couldn't make out, but ran with me. Behind us, we heard Cassie swear, then say something along the lines of, "No! Where is it? The Book of Life!" We ran, hoping to find a way out, through the aisles and aisles of clothes and useless objects. The mannequins were oddly absent, and I chalked it up to us, making her lose track of the Book of Life, or whatever she called it. I was beginning to think there was no way out of there when... "Look! That's my office door!" Stephanie shouted. "It looks more real," I mentioned. "Let's go." We reached the door, Stephanie a few steps ahead of me. She fumbled with a lock, but managed to open it. It led to what I assumed to be the real world. The detective practically leapt into it as I tried to catch up. I was mere steps away from entering the door when it vanished, and I slammed into a brick wall that was covered in soft, fuzzy moss. In the distance, I heard Cassie cackle with glee. Then I heard a strange low moan, like the noises I heard in the second mission. "Foolish child," she growled from somewhere beyond. "You can't run from me." The detective may have escaped while I searched for the book, but I still have you. So the door did go back to the real world, away from whatever hell this one was. And then I found myself back at the beginning, facing Cassie once again. Why?" I growled. "That isn't for you to know," she replied. "I'm actually quite sorry you have to die. I actually quite liked you. You were a good intern. I was going to maybe let you go, sacrifice that detective instead. But, well, we'll just see." "Why are you doing this? What's your goal?" "Revenge? But like I said, you don't know." "Fine, kill me then." "So I will," Cassie spoke, sighing. Cassie opened the book, and I saw plants growing from it, teeming with life. There were these... it was like a living flip pop-up diorama of the forest on the second mission I wrote about. I heard her speaking ancient words, some sort of chant as the plants grew higher and higher. I felt cold, like I was being hollowed out, like I was being emptied of life. I felt as if I was going to die, and I knew I was. I felt my vision slowly fading, the world slowly coming to an end. And then I heard a loud snap, like wood breaking, and I felt everything that was taken from me come back to me. I panted, and then looked around to see that a chair had been thrown at Cassie, and that she and the book was now on the floor. I ran, of course. I didn't care to find out who threw the chair. only that I was extremely thankful to them. As I ran, I could see Canopy looking around for the book. Or at least I assumed he was looking for it. Where did he come from? I turned to run for Canopy. Cassie regained herself, and seeing Canopy with the book, she launched herself at him, and the two began to fight. As I got there, I heard paper rip, but it was like 1,000 living things were crying in pain, and I saw that Canopy had gotten the book, while Cassie had ripped a few papers from it. "Canopy!" I yelled. "What?" He turned, confused. "Rainie?" But before I could reach him, this crack suddenly opened behind him, and I saw these thin, bone-like hands grab him and pull him into it. He was gone, and I was alone once again, with Cassie. "No!" she growled. She turned to me. "You will pay for this. You will be the sacrifice." I turned away from her and ran. This time I didn't find myself back at the beginning, just forward. I felt the cold, dead hands of the mannequins try to grab me, but they were less of life now and dead, returning to how they should have been. But I soon had to stop and rest, catching myself on a dining table. That's when I smelled smoke coming from Cassie's direction. I didn't know what was going on, and I didn't care. I was about to start running again when I saw this figure dart around an aisle. "Canopy?" I murmured. "Is that you?" There was no answer, but I was hoping it was him, so I walked over and I saw the figure, whoever it was, seemed to beckon me towards them. Or whatever it was. I ran after it. It seemed like a good idea at the time. There was just this feeling of helpfulness from the thing. I saw a door seemingly open up behind it, and then the shadowed figure opened it and went in. I didn't know what else to do, so I bolted in after it, and then I was suddenly at this house. I realized it was the same house I had investigated, the strange out-of-place mansion with the man with the fedora. What was this? First the weird sounds from the forest and the book, and now this out-of-place house? Things were getting very strange. I couldn't see the figure, and I wondered if I should have followed it in here. But that didn't matter, because I knew the house had a doorway out. The door to get out was behind me, in fact. The front door. I unlocked it and tried the handle. The door stayed put, refusing to move, even as I pushed and pulled at it. I tired myself out and fell to the soft, fuzzy carpet, taking a seat. Sure, I was safe from Cassie, hopefully, but I was stuck in this place. I was going to try the door again when I heard these voices, whispers, echoes. They were coming from places in the house. In fact, I even recognized some of these voices from when I was here with Cassie. They were echoed, distorted whispers, but I was sure it was us. I took a moment to hear the other voices. A young man's voice said something along the lines of, "Do you mind if I blow bubbles?" causing me to laugh. Whatever these voices were, at least one was funny. Another one, a strange, mischievous one, said, "If we are made in the image of God, doesn't that mean that we can become gods ourselves?" And then there was this woman responding to him, replying, "Didn't Leviathan Cain say that?" Another was between this child who said, "Do you really think Andras will stop looking for me?" And a response by this, angelic voice. "With the powers of the Koku artifact, we can shield ourselves." Soon I snapped out of it and started to look around for any clues, or items to help me escape the house. But something about the last voices seemed vaguely familiar. Not the conversation, but one of the words. Koku. That word just seemed familiar. I hadn't heard of it before. At least, I don't remember. But I know that that word was something. Something that I should know. But the meaning was lost to me. Suddenly, I heard static, and it seemed to have a bizarre melody. Something pounded against the doors, and I suddenly wasn't so sure if I should be trying to get out. "Can't hide from me," a muffled Cassie yelled from behind the door. I immediately locked the door, then started to look for another way out, a way to the real world. Then I saw the walls, which... what the heck? It was like the paint. No, the color of it was dripping off of it and finding its way to the ground, like raindrops on a window. The color seemed to pool on the ground, writhing and joining with other drops of color. Behind the color was nothing. Just nothing. I threw a rock at it, and it just bounced across the nothing where the wall should be, and fell into a growing pile of abstract, squirming color. When it touched the color, I saw the rock's color vanish, and it too became nothing. Wait, when did I get a rock? There were no rocks in the house. I didn't seem to remember stopping to get a rock when running from Cassie. Then I realized I didn't throw the rock. It felt like I did, yet it wasn't me. It was... the figure I saw earlier was back, on the stairs. I couldn't see it. It was covered in shadows that shouldn't have been there. The figure then tilted its head at me, then turned and made a hand signal that told me I had to follow it. So I did. I followed the shadow up the stairs, and just as I reached the top, I heard the door below crash open and Cassie entered the room. The shadow person put a finger on its lips, and then pointed at a room I should enter, and then simply melted away, just like the color into the ground. "Rainie!" Cassie exclaimed. "I know you're in here. Come out!" I slowly went into the room the shadow person had pointed at. Cassie seemed to be searching for me on the first floor. I opened the room's door, entered, and then quietly closed it. I looked at the room. It didn't look like any room I had seen in the mansion. I assumed this was the room that we never got to enter. It was a bedroom with a long bed on one end and cabinets and toy boxes on the other. A strange, hollow music box seemed to fill the room, its notes never resolving itself, instead ending on something off, sending chills up my spine. Then I saw myself in this mirror, only it wasn't myself, nor was it a mirror. It was a photograph of people, with what seemed to be a girl in the center. She had long black hair that partially covered her face. Around her were people, some in uniforms with a deer's head on them, and others who simply wore regular clothing. As I looked at the happy, smiling people, two of them caught my attention. There was a man there who was hugging what seemed to be his romantic partner from behind. But that didn't matter. What mattered was that the two of them were wearing none other than a uniform with a pin that only had one symbol. 7. The numeral 7. In the backdrop of the pin was another symbol, one I recognized to be the sigil version of Watchtower 7. The style of both the number and the clothes were instantly recognizable. They were Watchtower 7 uniforms. I looked around me to see if any caught my eye, and to the side, I saw a woman wearing an odd blend of the 7 uniform and another. The uniform had a deer's head on it. I saw a man in a similar hybrid uniform blowing bubbles, and I assumed it was the voice from earlier. That's when I noticed that on the very left of the photograph was me. I didn't remember taking the photograph at all, or recognize anyone in the photo, but I was sure it was me, with my sky blue hair and big smile. That's why I thought it was a reflection. I had seen myself. In the background was the ocean, I think. There was a boat behind the people, a large one, and there were workers with hybrid uniforms all over it working. I looked back at the people. There were 9 people in the photo. The leftmost person was me, and next to me was a young white-haired man with a big grin on his face. Next to him was a pink-haired woman I swore I'd seen before. A tall, serious-looking man was next, and the girl in the center, the one taking the photo. She was wearing an orange jacket and seemed proud. After that was the guy hugging his partner, and then the guy blowing bubbles, and at last, a bored-looking woman. My eye was caught by something shiny below the photograph. and I moved away an instrument case to see some words, captions for the bizarre, impossible photo. It was 2 words, medical ship. Before I could think further, I heard a knock on the door, then Cassie's voice. "I know you're in there, Rainie. Save me the time of breaking this door down and come out." I looked around, hoping to find a way to escape, or the strange shadow person from before, but there was nothing. I looked back to see the door shatter in a million pieces, and then saw Cassie. "No escape now, Rainie," she laughed. Then I heard static behind me, and then I felt 2 bony hands wrap around me, and then I found myself on the floor looking up at 2 people. One I recognized, a smiling, happy Canopy, and a woman in a very familiar dress. This has got to be... "It's a pleasure to meet you, Rainie Light," she spoke. "You should have guessed already, but I'm Maisie Krylove." "It's a pleasure to meet you too." She laughed. "Perhaps."